Section 8 of The Girl with the Golden Eyes. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Martin Geeson. The Girl with the Golden Eyes by Honoré de Balzac. Translated by Ellen Marriage. Section 8. If it be impossible to paint the unheard of delights which these two creatures, made by heaven in a joyous moment, found, it is perhaps necessary to translate metaphysically the extraordinary and almost fantastic impressions of the young man. That which persons in the social position of De Marsay, living as he lived, are best able to recognize, is a girl's innocence. But strange phenomenon! The girl of the golden eyes might be virgin, but innocent she was certainly not. The fantastic union of the mysterious and the real, of darkness and light, horror and beauty, pleasure and danger, paradise and hell, which had already been met with in this adventure, was resumed in the capricious and sublime being with which De Marsay dallied. All the utmost science, or the most refined pleasure, all that Henri could know of that poetry of the senses which is called love, was excelled by the treasures poured forth by this girl, whose radiant eyes gave the lie to none of the promises which they made. She was an oriental poem, in which shone the sun that Saadi, that Hafiz have set in their pulsing strophes. Only neither the rhythm of Saadi nor that of Pindar could have expressed the ecstasy, full of confusion and stupefaction, which seized the delicious girl when the error in which an iron hand had caused her to live was at an end. "Dead," she said, "I am dead, Adolphe. Take me to the world's end, to an island where no one knows us. Let there be no traces of our flight. We should be followed to the gates of hell. God, here is the day! Escape! Shall I ever see you again? Yes, tomorrow I will see you, if I have to deal death to all my warders to have that joy. Till tomorrow." She pressed him in her arms with an embrace in which the terror of death mingled. Then she touched a spring, which must have been in connection with a bell, and implored De Marsay to permit his eyes to be bandaged. "And if I would not? And if I wished to stay here?" "You would be the death of me more speedily," she said, "for now I know I am certain to die on your account." Henri submitted. In the man who has just gorged himself with pleasure, there occurs a propensity to forgetfulness, I know not what ingratitude, a desire for liberty, a whim to go elsewhere, a tinge of contempt, and perhaps of disgust for his idol. In fine, indescribable sentiments which render him ignoble and ashamed. The certainty of this confused but real feeling in souls who are not illuminated by that celestial light, nor perfumed with that holy essence from which the performance of sentiment springs, doubtless suggested to Rousseau the adventures of Lord Edward, which conclude the letters of the Nouvelle Heloise. If Rousseau is obviously inspired by the work of Richardson, he departs from it in 1,000 details which leave his achievement magnificently original. He has recommended it to posterity by great ideas which it is difficult to liberate by analysis when in one's youth one reads this work with the object of finding in it the lurid representation of the most physical of our feelings, whereas serious and philosophical writers never employ its images except as the consequence or the corollary of a vast thought, and the adventures of Lord Edward are one of the most Europeanly delicate ideas of the whole work. Henri, therefore, found himself beneath the domination of that confused sentiment which is unknown to true love. There was needful, in some sort, the persuasive grip of comparisons and the irresistible attraction of memories to lead him back to a woman. True love rules above all through recollection. A woman who is not engraven upon the soul by excess of pleasure or by strength of emotion, how can she ever be loved? In Henri's case, Paquita had established herself by both of these reasons. But at this moment, seized as he was by the satiety of his happiness, that delicious melancholy of the body, he could hardly analyze his heart, even by recalling to his lips the taste of the liveliest gratifications that he had ever grasped. He found himself on the Boulevard Montmartre at the break of day, gazed stupidly at the retreating carriage, produced 2 cigars from his pocket, lit one from the lantern of a good woman who sold brandy and coffee to workmen and street Arabs and chestnut vendors, to all the Parisian populace which begins its work before daybreak. Then he went off, smoking his cigar, and putting his hands in his trousers pockets with a devil-may-care air which did him small honor. What a good thing a cigar is! That's one thing a man will never tire of, he said to himself. Of the girl with the golden eyes, over whom at that time all the elegant youth of Paris was mad, he hardly thought. The idea of death, expressed in the midst of their pleasure, and the fear of which had more than once darkened the brow of that beautiful creature, who held to the houris of Asia by her mother, to Europe by her education, to the tropics by her birth, seemed to him merely one of those deceptions by which women seek to make themselves interesting. She is from Havana, the most Spanish region to be found in the New World, so she preferred to feign terror rather than cast in my teeth indisposition or difficulty, coquetry or duty, like a Parisian woman. By her golden eyes, how glad I shall be to sleep! He saw a hackney coach standing at the corner of Frascati's, waiting for some gambler. He awoke the driver, was driven home, went to bed, and slept the sleep of the dissipated, which for some queer reason, of which no rhymer has yet taken advantage, is as profound as that of innocence. Perhaps it is an instance of the proverbial axiom, extremes meet. About noon, De Marsay awoke and stretched himself. He felt the grip of that sort of voracious hunger which old soldiers can remember having experienced on the morrow of victory. He was delighted, therefore, to see Paul de Manerville standing in front of him, for at such a time nothing is more agreeable than to eat in company. "Well," his friend remarked, "we all imagined you had been shut up for the last 10 days with the girl of the golden eyes." "The girl of the golden eyes? I have forgotten her. Faith, I have other fish to fry." "Ah, you are playing at discretion." "Why not?" asked De Marsay with a laugh. "My dear fellow, discretion is the best form of calculation. Listen. However, no, I will not say a word. You never teach me anything. I am not disposed to make you a gratuitous present of the treasures of my policy. Life is a river which is of use for the promotion of commerce. In the name of all that is most sacred in life, of cigars, I am no professor of social economy for the instruction of fools. Let us breakfast. It costs less to give you a tunny omelette than to lavish the resources of my brain on you. Do you bargain with your friends?" "My dear fellow," said Henri, who rarely denied himself a sarcasm, "since all the same you may some day need, like anybody else, to use discretion, and since I have much love for you yes, I like you. Upon my word, if you only wanted a 1,000-franc note to keep you from blowing your brains out, you would find it here, for we haven't yet done any business of that sort, eh, Paul? If you had to fight to morrow, I would measure the ground and load the pistols so that you might be killed according to rule. In short, if anybody besides myself took it into his head to say ill of you in your absence, he would have to deal with the somewhat nasty gentleman who walks in my shoes. There's what I call a friendship beyond question. Well, my good fellow, if you should ever have need of discretion, understand that there are 2 sorts of discretion, the active and the negative. Negative discretion is that of fools who make use of silence, negation, an air of refusal, the discretion of locked doors, mere impotence. Active discretion proceeds by affirmation. Suppose at the club this evening I were to say, "Upon my word of honor, the golden eyed was not worth all she cost me." Everybody would exclaim when I was gone, "Did you hear that fop de Marsay, who tried to make us believe that he has already had the girl of the golden eyes? It's his way of trying to disembarrass himself of his rivals. He's no simpleton." But such a ruse is vulgar and dangerous. However gross a folly one utters, there are always idiots to be found who will believe it. The best form of discretion is that of women when they want to take the change out of their husbands. It consists in compromising a woman with whom we are not concerned, or whom we do not love, in order to save the honor of the one whom we love well enough to respect. It is what is called the woman's screen. Ah, here is Laurent. What have you got for us? Some Ostend oysters, Monsieur le Comte. You will know some day, Paul, how amusing it is to make a fool of the world by depriving it of the secret of one's affections. I derive an immense pleasure in escaping from the stupid jurisdiction of the crowd, which knows neither what it wants nor what one wants of it, which takes the means for the end, and by turns curses and adores, elevates and destroys. What a delight to impose emotions on it and receive none from it, to tame it, never to obey it. If one may ever be proud of anything, is it not a self-acquired power, of which one is at once the cause and effect, the principle and the result? Well, no man knows what I love, nor what I wish. Perhaps what I have loved, or what I may have wished, will be known, as a drama which is accomplished is known. But to let my game be seen, weakness, mistake. I know nothing more despicable than strength outwitted by cunning. Can I initiate myself with a laugh into the ambassador's part, if indeed diplomacy is as difficult as life? I doubt it. Have you any ambition? Would you like to become something? But Henri, you are laughing at me, as though I were not sufficiently mediocre to arrive at anything. Good, Paul, if you go on laughing at yourself, you will soon be able to laugh at everybody else. End of section 8. Recording by Martin Geeson in Hazelmere, Surrey.